going to make a statement and ask one question in my 5 minutes. I'm a Republican, and everybody thinks Republicans should leave the free market alone, and I believe that it is the best source of innovation and competition. But where markets aren't working, antitrust enforcers should be able to take swift and decisive action to prevent anti-competitive activity. And if our laws need updating to provide better authority, then that's something that Congress should consider. I have strong concerns about competition in some sectors. That's why I've introduced several bills addressing concerns with competition in pharmaceutical marketplace. A lot of those have been bipartisan with Senator Klobuchar. Similarly, agriculture is an area where I've expressed concern for many years and introduced several pieces of legislation, including increasing transparency in livestock markets. I've been increasingly concerned with the dominance of the big tech companies and how that impacts competitors and consumers. Right now, there are only a handful of companies that control Americans' everyday lives, from what they see and read, how they interact online, how they purchase goods. These big tech companies are using their dominant monopoly power to favor themselves, and that monopoly power harms small businesses. It's not only preferencing and discrimination that's happening, but they also are using their power in the market to silence conservative voices. There must be a level playing field and fair competition. That's why I earlier joined the bill that Senator Klobuchar has already talked about, the American Innovation and Choice Online Act, to address competition concerns with big tech. This bill provides common sense rules to ensure that dominant online platforms don't unfairly preference their own products or discriminate against business users on their platforms. It will help ensure greater competition and more opportunities for small business and better results for consumers. This bill isn't about punishing successful companies. I strongly applaud American ingenuity and success, but we must ensure that there's a fair and even playing field for everyone on dominant platforms and that consumers aren't harmed. The American Innovation and Choice Online Act is about targeting harmful conduct while ensuring that pro-consumer innovations are protected. My question to Ms. Moss and Professor Albert, how do you, I want to go back to one of the bills that I said I introduced. Over the past few decades, we've seen increased competition and anti-competitive activity in the agricultural industry, including in meat packing, the seed market, and fertilizers. So to you two, how do you think that this has negatively impacted competition and consumers of agricultural products?
Thank you, Senator Grassley. To your question about competition in the ag biotech industry, AAI has done a tremendous amount of work on this. We now have the creation of multi-level massive behemoth platforms in traits, seeds, agrochemicals, and now digital farming. And I spoke in my remarks earlier about the massive wingspan of these companies. Not to say that there aren't necessarily some efficiencies that might come out of integration, but these companies are so large that smaller innovative rivals have virtually no chance of getting a foothold in the market because they are faced with a company that dominates multiple levels. To your question about the role of Congress, I applaud all of you for thinking hard and seriously about the role of Congress in strengthening, clarifying, modernizing, and updating our antitrust laws to address the types of endemic problems that we see in large companies, exclusionary conduct through discrimination on platforms, cartels that slow down innovation and harm consumers. All of these are needed steps in bootstrapping for our antitrust laws, I think, in the United States. And we really are, I believe, at a pivotal point, where we can look to protect our consumers, our markets, and our democratic principles, or we can slide into a period of very slow economic growth and decline.
Professor?
Yeah, on agriculture, let me just say that I think the biggest problem is you sort of have to pick which seeds and seed varieties and chemicals you're going to use between the different competitors and then stick with them. You don't really have the freedom to pick and choose between some seed varieties with some companies and then other chemicals with other companies. You sort of have to pick which company you're going to go with and do that. With respect to your support and sponsorship of S2992 and the various categories of unlawful conduct that you are proposing to address, I do want to say that there's a lot of good that is happening in this bill. Let me give you, for example, Section 2 on unlawful conduct of S2992 prohibits conditioning access to covered platforms or preferred status or placement on the covered platform on the purchase or use of other products or services offered by the covered platform operator that are not part of or intrinsic to the covered platform. That is exactly the kind of behavior that we're seeing with respect to Google in the online advertising market, where there is a forced tying, a forced connection between, if you're going to use one of their products, say the buyer broker or the seller broker, you also have to use one of their other products. You cannot advertise on YouTube without using Google's brokerage services. It's impossible to do it. So these are the kinds of concerns that I think you're proposing in this legislation that would be helpful.
Senator Bloom.